accessible to all children, which is the formal form of education. And by formal education, what do we mean? Early childhood education, which is your preschool, your prep school before you go to primary school. And you have your primary education, which is your 1st through 6th grade. You do have your secondary education, which is 7 to 12. And then your higher education, which is your community colleges, university, and postgraduate schools. So we do have this form of education in Guinea, but how many Guineans have access to it? And what is the quality of this kind of education? We do need to talk about that when we talk about education, and make sure when we, as we said here, we are here to find solutions together. In finding the solutions, we put together recommendations pretty much that would provide or help the institutions on the ground and the government on the ground provide the quality type of education that we need in our educational system in Guinea. And I just said something here to remind everybody again, once again, that quality education is essential to future development in all nations. My favorite part of the type of education that I believe every developing nation in the world, unless you fooling yourself, needs is the non-formal type of education. And I should say that even in our community here, everybody is so focused on trying to understand who has the masters of PhD that we forget that we have youth even in our communities here that are not college materials. They do not want to go to college. What do we do to organize these kids to be important members of our community and our society? How do we get the adult population in Guinea are essentially illiterate, and we all agree with that. Significant percentage of our youth as well are struggling in their secondary and university education. Why? Because we are failing to recognize that they are not college materials. They also lack guidance, mentorship, financial resources, role models, and or motivation. These are targeted groups in our community that we must all help through some kind of non-formal schooling, training, and at the same time, make sure we help secure jobs for them. And when I talk about that, I can talk about a specific neighborhood in Conakry that some of my friends and I have always talked about. And up to now, we're trying to figure out ways and programs that we can implement in this neighborhood of Conakry, where all the problems in Guinea that you can think about starts in Conakry, in Bambeto. The youth in Bambeto is a serious issue for me, because I have always noticed that all these politicians use these uneducated, powerless youth to always send their negative message that they need sense. And all across boards on the political system in Guinea, you see that. Every problem that starts in Guinea starts in Bambeto. And that's because our youth there is not focused on something else. When you go to Conakry and you drive through Bambeto in the middle of the night, like I'm talking 2-3 a.m., these youths are all on the roofs. They hang out all night. In the morning, you don't see them. They are either in the cafes drinking hard coffees and things like that, and at night they spend all night out. And all day long, or one other thing is when you drive to Bambeto or in most of the neighborhoods in Conakry, you will see these same guys. In the morning, sometimes you leave them under a tree, they're drinking tea and playing cards. You come back in the evening, they're still sitting there. Why is that? Because they have nothing else to do. And they don't even know what to do with their lives. Time goes by, they resort to crime, and all kinds of things that our societies don't need. So what do? Why don't we invest in non-formal education for these members of our societies, and create centers, training centers, vocational training with qualified teachers that would help these young, girls and men, whatever you call them, youth, and make sure they also value themselves to say, you know what, I did something, I can get a job, 9 to 5, get his own salary, create some sense of pride, and make him feel like he's an important citizen of his home country. It is very important that we not forget that if we're going to resolve the problem in Guinea, we need to focus on this specific form of education. So in order to implement any development program in Guinea through professional development and vocational training, we must first make sure we have the capacity to measure the effectiveness and progress of programs, as well as be able to respond to the needs of statistical data essential for the promotion of these programs for social and economic development in Guinea. Some examples of non-formal education include, but they are not limited to, structured and targeted agricultural training programs at the national scale. And I mentioned this particular program, why? Because we have one of the richest soil on the continent, Guinea. And in Guinea, when you go to the villages, you find nothing but old people. The youth is gone. Where are they? In Conakry. Doing what? Nothing. What do we do to retain these people in their respective villages and community while making them feel so important? One of the things that we can do is invest in agriculture. But not just, teach them how to, practice agriculture. Create, look beyond that. Turn these people into entrepreneurs where they can take these products that they grow and turn them into some kind of profit earning at a different level, where you supply, for instance, the market in Guinea or surrounding towns and things like that, where you can supply consistently, the women on the market, things like that, and teach them how to keep their books, tell them the importance of what it means to financially organize yourself, all those kind of things. So how do we retain these youth in the villages and rural areas? This is one of the ways. It's not the only way, but this is the one that I focused on, because I believe that we are very blessed with a soil that, if we take advantage of, will take us all a long way. And also, another type of non-formal education is in the construction area. Building, road, medical, and electrical certifications, for instance, mechanical and electrical certification. When you look at home building in Guinea, I've gone through this experience. Everybody knows how to put a wall up, put a roof on it, but precision and that little fine touch to say, wow, this is spotless and perfectly done, it's not there. Why? Because this is just learned on a day-to-day survival, watching somebody do. We're not creating structured programs that will teach these young men that are doing masonry and all kind of stuff how to measure, how to do certain things at a very fine level. We can do all that by investing in programs at a non-formal level that will teach them those kind of things. Web designing is one of them for instance, our young high school dropouts. If they don't want to go to college, fine. Why don't we create programs that would teach them, say for somebody who is very passionate about computer science and things, but he doesn't see himself as a teach them things like, web designing. Teach them how to start a business. In Guinea, you know how many people call people abroad and say, build my website for me? Because we don't have people, or the few people on the ground that know how to do it, charge money, amount of money that people cannot afford. So why don't you organize these youth in starting their own little businesses where they would, but before making sure they go through a training program, and then teaching them and organizing them in a way that they will, start some kind of business where they can profit from, and again, feel like they are an important member of our society. And of course, when we do that and we're successful at that, trust me, we're going to reduce the rate of poverty and crime in a way that we would not believe possible. Adult literacy is one thing that we should also focus on. Like I said earlier, majority of our current adult population in Guinea is illiterate. So for those who want to think in that area, you can invest in that when you go in your country and offer some kind of timing for in your neighborhoods and your communities for adult literacy. Microfinance and entrepreneurship, which is what I've been talking about all along, that can be applied to all these little trainings that we can provide for our youth. Carpentry, plumbing, masonry, and so forth. I think I lost my slide. I'm sorry. Okay. So, moving on, I'm going to conclude by saying that, let me make sure. In order for any nation to develop itself, it must include and take seriously its technical and vocational